Welcome back to TK Tennis and the Wimbledon Finals prediction recap video. So if you watched my predictions video coming into the finals, you saw that I picked Anna Samova over Iga Swiatek, and I also chose Sinner over Alcaraz. So let's talk about it. You might want to call this video the I told you so or I told you not video. So anyways, let's jump into the women's final and what happened there. Of course, there were a lot of trolls after the 6-0, 6-0 beatdown by Iga Swiatek against Amanda Anisimova. And there were some people in the comments that said, we could see this coming a mile away. She's going to wilt in the finals. That's easy to say as a Monday morning quarterback after the fact. You can say that all you want. But my initial prediction that Anisimova had a chance to beat Iga was based on the simple fact that if the Amanda Anisimova that played against Sabalenka showed up to the finals, that Amanda Anisimova could certainly beat Iga Swiatek. And if I had to make that prediction over, knowing what I know now, of course you would pick Iga over Amanda. But when you make these predictions, I make them based on head-to-head matchups, play styles, weather conditions, and court conditions. There's a lot of other data that I never do have, which is how did someone wake up in the morning? Did they sleep that night? Are they not feeling well? Are they injured? Or are they going to completely wilt under the pressure of their first Grand Slam final? That's information none of us have. Now, if I, like I said in that video, if I had an opportunity to see Amanda practice the day before and the day of, you might have been able to see that or learn that information to see how she was feeling and if she was going to maybe collapse. But that is completely unpredictable, but the game styles are not. So I base my predictions on if two players show up and they play good tennis, what's likely to happen? And in that scenario, even if Amanda did show up, Iga is playing incredibly well, and surprisingly because it's grass. But Amanda has the type of game that could absolutely give Iga fits, just like Sabalenka. So if Amanda did show up, could she have won that match? Absolutely. But she didn't show up. But even if she did show up, Iga could, of course, still win the match. That's the reason they play the game in the first place. I was wrong. I told you not. And the trolls came out in full force on the video comments after the first women's final. Now, that's fine. I just ask you to be constructive. If you're going to be completely rude, don't be. Just be cool. Be constructive. If you just want to say, I told you so, like you know better, then you could make your own videos and your own prediction videos as well. But I do these because I enjoy the sport so much. I think I have some insight that can compare game styles and play styles, things that I've learned over 35 plus years of watching the game. Sometimes I'll be right and sometimes I'll be wrong. Now, speaking of being right, let's talk about the men's final, where Jannik Sinner beat Carlos Alcaraz in 4 sets. When I made that prediction, I was based on mostly weather conditions and court conditions and how they match up. Make no mistake about it, these two players match up incredibly well. Someone has to lose. Both of these individuals, they don't buy into the narrative that's out there that Carlos has the mental edge over Sinner. These two individuals, just like the big three, they don't think in hindsight. They only think forward. So if they had a bad loss, these guys are freaks and they have a different type of mental fortitude. So whatever happened at the French Open, when it comes to Jannik Sinner, it's not going to impact him. And again, they're just a rare breed of athletes that only try and control the things that they can control, which is the future, and they don't control the things that they can't control, which is the past. And that's been ingrained in them over years of junior tournament tennis. And most players never even get there, right? This is a very elite class of players that can ever get to that sort of mental state where they don't let the past impact the future. And they don't have that PTSD like a lot of other players would have, like Alexander Zverev or any of the other pros that have had bad losses in Grand Slam finals. Sometimes that impacts players, but it doesn't impact these two guys. Now, in terms of the match itself, I was questioning my assessment, especially in the first 2 sets. Well, especially in the first set. They both came out, you could see they were tight and they were a bit nervous. They were talking to themselves. Sinner was acting in ways that he never does on the court. And these guys were definitely tense. But don't mistake being tight and tense from being overly nervous and choking. Some people said in the match in the French Open that Sinner choked that match away. He didn't choke. Again, these guys are incredible battlers in tennis, and they don't choke. They can have tight moments at times, but someone has to win. And when you put these two guys in front of each other, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. And it doesn't mean one person choked or the other person did. It doesn't always mean that. And you've seen that with the Big Three era, and you will continue to see it with these two guys. These guys don't choke. Do they get tight? Yes, but there is a difference. And many other players do choke, and you can see that in their serves and their tosses, and they miss more returns. These guys don't do that. So anyway, I was questioning the prediction or the assessment because Carlos was dominating in the serve in the first two sets. That out wide slice serve that Sinner just couldn't get a read on. There were lots of aces, lots of service winners. And on the flip side, Jannik was playing well, not tremendously well, but he was serving really poorly. He had 0 aces through the first two sets, and the service winners were very minimal. So that means he had to play really good service games and back up his serve just to hold serve, and that's a lot of pressure. And the key moment in this match came, in my mind, at 5-4 with Jannik up a break, serving for the second set. He hasn't been able to close out sets and matches against Alcaraz in the previous 5 meetings. He's really struggled with that, and Carlos has gotten the better of him. But when Jannik was able to serve out that second set, and he didn't just serve it out, he got the serves in play. Carlos had all the returns back in play, practically. I think he missed one, but they had to play really great points, and Jannik had to come up with 3 really big winners, tremendous points to win that at 5-4. And that's what I'm going to say, is at that point, Jannik decided, if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose going down firing. And I think he got a little bit lucky, not lucky because he made tremendous shots, but he was fortunate to make all the shots and get out of that game and come out of that first 2 sets 1 apiece. And that is where the tide changed. And this is how quickly these matches change mentally and physically, because from that point on, throughout the 3rd and 4th set, Sinner's serve went up like 8% higher. He started to hit aces, and he started to hit a lot more service winners. And that really allowed him to hold serve much easier with a lot less pressure. And on the flip side, Carlos didn't rise or raise his game as well as Sinner did in the 3rd and 4th sets. And one of the other things, the reason I made this prediction that I did, it was because of the court conditions. And there's 2 points or 3 that you could probably see that I made that prediction. Carlos's kick serve, when it went to Jannik's backhand, it didn't rise up as much, and Jannik was able to get a lot more of those shots in play. So that did happen. But the difference between the French Open and grass, and you could see it, another instance you could see was Jannik's, when he has to hit off that one-legged, that two-handed backhand off of one leg, where he rises up, jumps off the ground, and hits the two-hander. At the French Open, that just didn't have enough bite, because when it hit the court, it slowed down enough where Carlos could get to it and execute a passing shot or a lob or whatever he needed to do. But on this court, because it slid a little bit, and because Jannik was hitting 85 to 95 mile an hour backhands at times, is that you could see that it took away just that or millisecond of time where Carlos couldn't get around those backhands, because most of them went to the backhands. So Jannik hits off the one leg, drives it to his backhand, and that particular shot, while it didn't happen that often, maybe 5 or 8 times throughout the match, Jannik was able to get a lot more pressure on Carlos, and he won most of those points, something that he didn't do at the French Open. And that just shows the court conditions that Jannik in the 3rd and 4th set was able to take time away, those milliseconds, those precious milliseconds, take time away from Carlos. And because of those shots and taking time away, people would say that that's why Carlos missed the drop shots, and it is. And some people might say that Carlos just wasn't hitting his touch, and his finesse game wasn't as good as it normally was. And that's true, it wasn't. But that was because of Jannik. When you're playing on grass and the ball slides just that little bit extra, and you're having to hit back a shot or trying to hit a drop shot off an 80 or 90 mile an hour ground stroke, you have less time and you end up making more mistakes. And that's what happened. It wasn't that Carlos's finesse was less, it's just that it's harder to execute. And of course, when it's harder to execute, you have more errors, and that's exactly what happened. And because of that, you took away a lot of that versatility that Alcaraz has the advantage on, and now you turn it a little bit more into a mano-to-mano, baseline-to-baseline slugfest. And that's at a disadvantage for Alcaraz. And as good as he is, because he can beat anyone else at that game, he probably can't beat Jannik going head-to-head from the baseline. And so that it turned the game a little bit more one-dimensional. Jannik was serving better, the ground strokes are going more his way, and Alcaraz couldn't use his variety that he typically has. And he couldn't use the variety of that deep driving topspin ball to the backhand that he does on clay. So at the end of the day, what you saw, and the reason I predicted Jannik to win, was because of the court conditions and the court surface itself. And that's what it really comes down to with these two players. Everything else being equal, if they both bring their A game, which they almost always do against each other, and that's what you have to base your assessments off of. If they both bring their A games, how does the matchup look based on current conditions? It could be altitude, it could be heat, it could be court surface. Any of those factors are the factors that probably would determine who's going to win or lose against these two guys. I just want to see tremendous tennis. It would have been interesting to see a fifth set, but Jannik was able to continue to play his best when it mattered most, and Alcaraz wasn't quite able to match that level today, and because of it made a few more mistakes, and that's the reason you saw the match go the way it did. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these prediction videos and the prediction recap videos, I'll continue to do so, and of course sometimes I'm going to be wrong, and that's okay. I'll do the best that I can to assess the matches objectively as possible, and I totally take out my favoritism for any players out of the equation. Ultimately, I just don't care that much who wins. And I just want to see great tennis. And that's what we saw at the French Open final. And that's what we saw again today. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next days.